Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be reacting to Patrick CC's How an Entitled No-Name Actor Destroyed a Disney Classic. Let's get into it.
Disney was warned for years that their live-action remake of Snow White would be an abysmal failure. They ignored the warnings and instead made every wrong decision possible, leading to a box office bomb. Theaters around the world are empty. The film sold 50% less than they projected.
Wow,
It earned a
50%
1.6 out of 10 star rating on IMDb.
That is so bad. 1.6 stars? That's horrible.
A 20% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The CGI dwarves will give you nightmares.
Oh no. Oh no, dude, this looks so bad.
And the little people they replaced with CGI have filed a class action lawsuit against Disney. Walt Disney himself is turning in his grave because he personally requested that the company should never change, alter, or remake Snow White. But they did it anyway, by casting Rachel Zegler, who insisted that they change the entire film to make it more politically correct. Rachel called the original Prince Charming a stalker, insisted that Snow White was not yearning for love, but actually dreamed of being a leader. Rachel also demanded she be paid more for, quote, standing in a dress for 18 hours.
Oh no. I didn't even hear about this. When it came to like news about Rachel Zegler, it was just, everything was just so insane and low-key kind of deranged. Like, what is this?
Zegler created so much controversy that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for her co-star Gal Gadot because of the countless death threats she was receiving. This movie is an absolute dumpster fire, and Rachel's response to the film bombing proved that everyone's suspicions about her were correct.
I'm a narcissist.
And yet none of them.
Wow, she really told us from the beginning. She really did.
That has anything to do with why people were suspicious about Rachel Zegler in the first place. In 2018, Rachel's friend sent her a tweet about an open casting call for Steven Spielberg's film adaptation of West Side Story. So 16-year-old Zegler recorded and submitted an audition
Oh wow,
tape.
she was 16? That's impressive.
Are you all mourning about a fight that's gonna happen tonight?
Now, she was definitely a promising young talent. She spent her childhood acting in countless plays and developed an impressive singing voice. Rachel was just one of 30,000
her singing
who
was like
auditioned
really
for the role
nice.
of Maria. Without any professional
really
acting experience, an agent, or connections in Hollywood, she was selected for the lead role. Her performance earned critical acclaim, and she went on to win the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. The industry plant accusations were formed because some people simply do not believe that a no-name actor could get this lucky. She was basically hand-selected by Steven Spielberg. Then again, with the entertainment industry being flooded with nepo babies and people born into immense wealth, Rachel being essentially a random girl from New Jersey securing an A-list role actually might be a step in the right direction for her.
There are just so many like actors and actresses in Hollywood now that just all seem to have like a connection to someone who's already in the industry. Yeah, basically nepo babies. So it is quite impressive that, you know, she doesn't have any Hollywood connections and she got the role for this. So it really says something about her talent as an actress and a singer. It really is quite impressive. You gotta give her kudos to that at least. But she's quite insufferable, so that's just the downside. They have to nerf her somehow, right?
Hollywood. However, they may have chose the wrong girl, because her inability to keep her politically charged opinions to herself started to cause problems for Disney executives. As if West Side Story wasn't already a massive introduction to Hollywood, her next role was even bigger, one that could set her up for a lifetime of success, and that was being cast as Snow White in Disney's live-action remake of the classic.
Honestly, if she just wasn't so insufferable and just didn't bring any politics to it, she would have been set for life, honestly.
Rachel chose to make this monumental announcement on Twitter where she wrote, "Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role."
What the f is this? Honestly, who asked? No one asked you to bleach your skin?
Rachel deleted this tweet shortly after sending it out to the world.
Oh,
However,
no.
the reason she brought up her skin color in the first place was to address the criticism she was receiving online. In the original fairy tale and the 1937 animated film, Snow White is depicted as having skin as white as snow. It is quite literally the inception of the princess's identity. But Rachel Zegler is of Colombian descent and has more of an olive skin tone. Now, there definitely were some extreme takes, suggesting that Disney is evil and only casting POC characters to cause outrage. There were also some blatantly racist takes, but most people were just genuinely confused why Snow
Doesn't her name come from her skin being as white as snow? Oh, yes, that is
White
true.
wasn't going to be white, and this does seem to be a recurring theme for Disney these days. The original 1989 animation of The Little Mermaid depicted Ariel as a white woman, whereas the 2023 live-action remake cast Halle Bailey as Ariel, who is African American. And yes, this film was also accused of pandering, trying to change something that was a non-issue in the first place. However, defenders pointed out that mermaids don't have a race because they are not real. Normally, these controversies lead to failure, but the film grossed over $560 million.
Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I myself am a mermaid.
Worldwide and made a solid profit.
Domestic 52.3%, international 47.7%, and worldwide they made so much. They made a decent amount.
$560 million worldwide and made a solid profit. But Zegler insisted that the Snow White remake was based on an alternative version of the story, one that doesn't have to do with her skin color. She said, "It fell
An alternative? What?
back to another version of Snow White that was told in history, where she survived a snowstorm that occurred when she was a baby, and so the king and queen decided to name her Snow White to remind her of her resilience. One of the core points in our film for any young woman or young person is remembering how strong you actually are. And while this may seem like a small nuance that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, it was an insight into the major changes that were coming next, because the more Zegler talked about the film, the more it seemed like it was going to be a disaster, particularly in this Variety interview where she talked about how she and the writers are giving Snow White a modern twist.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Snow White dreams of being a leader? Why not write a totally new story instead of remaking the old ones?
So true. This is so true. If anything, they could have done they should have just gone with like the Maleficent route. You know, they made a brand new story out of Sleeping Beauty. They could have just done that. If they did it with like the Evil Queen, I think it would have been much better.
It has nothing to do with Snow White. Zegler, there is nothing wrong with dreaming about true love. But people were not overreacting in the comments. Zegler supported stripping this classic story of its roots.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Evidently so.
There's a big
Snarky.
focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
The snarky attitude and the sarcasm. It just makes you look so insufferable. You're in an interview. You should be like trying to promote the movie that you starred in. I get like with the interview they're probably asking like what it's about, but you could have like kept some mystery to it. Oh, this is so bad. And I think with this interview, it kind of really set the tone of how people were going to view her from now on. Does Hollywood really not like believe in PR training anymore? Because it's actually so sad that all these interviews that you see of her, she's just so insufferable and so cringy. It's so bad. Bring back PR training, please. Especially for those who are like new in Hollywood. Bring it back. This is also like another big reason why the movie didn't have success, because you shouldn't even be bringing like political views. Calling the princess stalker. Come on. Hello? I can't even. Oh my god, I don't have a coherent thought right now because I'm just so annoyed with how the interview went. Anyways, moving on.
Rachel's tone might come off silly to some, but it is evidently so sarcastic. Referring to Prince Charming as a stalker is inaccurate and disrespectful. We are not talking about just any Disney film. We are talking about the first ever full-length animated feature film in history. This is quite literally Walt Disney's baby. Now, people are already a little apprehensive towards the countless remakes of old Disney classics, but Rachel's lack of class and grace pushed anyone who was even a little open-minded away. Despite that, she continued to express her disdain for the original film.
I was scared of the original cartoon. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
What's interesting...
Yet here you are playing Snow White. As you're doing the interview, the tone of your voice and how you're speaking, your mannerisms throughout the interview, it's not cute, it's not quirky, it's really awkward and it looks very unprofessional. It doesn't help with you promoting the movie. And with all these other interviews, I don't know how it's gonna look for any future roles that you would want to take on. It's not good. It's not good at all.
About Rachel claiming to be scared of the original film is that she also said the exact opposite during her press tour, showing pictures of her as a child in her Snow White dress and how she always dreamed as a little girl of being this princess.
How the turns have tabled.
Constant flip-flopping along with her sarcastic tone just soured.
Why was there even like any flip-flop? Bring back PR training because these interviews were horrible.
People's perception of her. But not only did she seem unappreciative of a Disney classic, she also made some interesting comments about her next role as Anthea in Shazam! Fury of the Gods.
Oh no.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes? I needed a job. I'm being so serious.
While yes, even actors have bills to pay and need a job to do that, some interpreted the remark as snarky and annoying. Now, to be fair, later in the interview, Rachel does go on to express her gratitude for receiving this role, considering it was only her second Hollywood film ever. But her unapologetic attitude on the red carpet continued to stir the pot, and she just kept making it worse, specifically during the writer's strike of 2023. The Writers Guild of America represents thousands of writers in film, TV, radio, and online media. They are the backbone of Hollywood's content. Despite their importance, Hollywood executives restructured the industry to drastically reduce residual payments, leaving most writers with little to no income after their work is uploaded to apps like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, etc. So the guild went on a strike to renegotiate and push for higher pay. Rachel Zegler also used her voice to support the strike.
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Girl, what are you doing? Girl, the strike was for the writers. Oh my god, dude, this is so bad. Like, I feel so much secondhand embarrassment right now for her. An actor or actress, right, is gonna be treated completely different from the way a writer is treated. I don't think she understands that. She's the main character. And I get trying to support, like, the cause, but making comments like that, it really is slightly tone deaf, and I don't even think she realizes that. It's like comparing a tomato to, like, I don't fucking know, a peach. It's two completely different things. They're different. You ever just, like, hear a person talk and then all of a sudden, like, you just feel this gnawing headache coming in just by hearing their voice? That's how I'm feeling right now with all these interviews. I can't.
It's like everything people hate about this generation distilled into a single person. At this point, I'm sure you are noticing a pattern. While we hope that deep down Rachel's intentions are pure, and we hope that she truly is just trying to have an overall positive impact on the world, she has a
I'm sure she really is trying to set, like, a good example, but tying that into, like, your interviews for a Disney movie, it's not good. Why are you even bringing politics to a kid's movie in the first place? Yes, granted, there are a lot of adults who do like Disney. You know, they're there for the entertainment. It's not really about, like, the political view that you have. It's really not. It's oh man, I feel so bad for her, but she's just She did this to herself, and it's so sad.
A terrible way of expressing her opinions, as her tone often comes off as disrespectful. Having 2 movies under her belt and already aggressively demanding higher pay came off extremely entitled, especially considering the strike was mostly for writers, because main characters, like Zegler, are often compensated
what I was talking about
generously.
earlier.
By this point, her reputation was at an all-time low, and there were even rumors circulating that Disney was going to axe this film, as countless people expressed that Rachel Zegler is the sole reason that they would not go to watch the movie. But then,
at that point, honestly, they probably should have just pulled the plug. I guess they were really just hoping that the movie would just break even. At some point, they should have like taken the responsibility and stopped what she was doing with all these interviews. They should have said something like sooner.
and somehow Disney managed to make things even worse. They announced that they would be changing Snow White's 7 dwarves to the more politically correct Snow White's diverse group of magical creatures of all sizes and genders. Photos of the cast were leaked onto the internet, which sparked outrage. These look like medieval times reenactors at the local fair. Disney quickly responded and said that these were not pictures of the actual set, but nobody believed them. The only reason Disney planned on changing the dwarves in the first place was because of a comment made by Hollywood star Peter Dinklage, who felt that the new rendition of the movie was not progressive enough.
I was a little taken back by they're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Yeah.
7 dwarves.
Sure.
You take a step back and look at what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I know. That makes no sense to me.
But
you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Even though Peter Dinklage...
Wait, what? What the is he even talking about? Someone explain, because I really don't understand.
Dinklage has built an illustrious Hollywood legacy with countless roles as a little person. He seemed pretty upset with Disney. They promptly responded that they would avoid reinforcing stereotypes and would be consulting with members of the dwarfism community to make the 7 characters more inclusive. Most people just looked at this as Disney once again pandering to another social issue. But what often happens when trying to please everyone for the sake of being politically correct, you end up pleasing no one.
What they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people can have as little people. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's 4 dwarfs.
Disney was panicking for a solution to make both sides happy.
Correct, because like they really did take away jobs from like 7 people that could have played it, you know?
And nobody could have predicted how bad their solution to this problem would be. Instead of casting real actors, Disney decided to eliminate them and use CGI dwarves instead, which...
It looks so bad. Look at this. It looks so bad.
Disney decided to eliminate them and use CGI dwarves instead, which will provide enough nightmare fuel to last you the rest of 2025. The dwarves look like scary monsters, not cute, charming friends. The overuse of CGI in this film allowed them to take shortcuts. Instead of creating detailed artistic sets and costumes, they relied on animation, which made the film feel cheap, hollow, and soulless. Like, wasn't this supposed to be a live-action remake? Where's the live action? Why is there so much CGI? Why does it look like a really bad cartoon? Additionally, the significance of the dwarves to the story was drastically reduced. Grumpy and Dopey got a decent amount of screen time, while the other 5 dwarves were barely shown enough for the viewers to be able to distinguish them from one another.
To be fair, though, regarding the 7 dwarves, the most memorable members from the 7 dwarves were Dopey and Grumpy, as well as Sleepy. At least for me personally. I don't know about everyone else, but those 3 were like the most memorable for me. So I can understand why the others didn't really receive much quote-unquote airtime.
Ironically, all of these decisions were made to avoid backlash from the dwarfism community, and now the little people who were removed from the film are now planning a class action lawsuit against Disney for replacing them with cartoons.
Oh,
this is so ridiculous. Actress Allie Chapman, who is 3 foot 8 inches tall, said, 7 talented little people actors could have played these roles in the live-action remake, and yet they chose to use cartoons. It's an insult and discriminatory. You ever see one of those tragic situations where it's extremely foggy and there's a traffic jam on the highway, and you have cars speeding into the fog, just crashing into each other? That is this film. And surely it couldn't get any worse.
What an analogy.
Because now there was a major dispute between the 2 stars of the film, Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler. Fans noticed sometime between 2023 and 2024 that Gal and Rachel may have developed some tension. As you can see in this interview, Gal is being professional, looking and smiling while Zegler is speaking. But whenever Gal is speaking, Zegler refuses to look at her, often looking down at her feet or off to the side. Their body
the body language is so awkward for Rachel, so bad on her behalf. Gal Gadot did pretty well, like professionally. From an outsider's perspective, you can see that she was really trying to be professional, even if there was any like tension between them. You couldn't tell from Gal. But from Rachel, you can definitely see that she didn't even want to be part of the interview. It's actually crazy.
Language screams that there is tension between them, and these assumptions would be proven true. When Disney released the official trailer for Snow White, Rachel thanked the fans for their support, receiving over 120 million views in 24 hours. She used that big moment to make a political statement. And always remember, Free Palestine. While some saw this as an honorable act of solidarity, others interpreted it as a jab at her co-star. Gal Gadot is Israeli and even served in their military. Gal has been outwardly supportive of her country, specifically posting support for the IDF and civilian hostages taken during the October 7th Hamas attack. Almost immediately, Gal began getting a concerning amount of death threats. Things got so bad that Disney had to hire a personal security detail for Gadot. One of the Disney producers, Mark Platt, flew from Los Angeles to New York to have a personal crisis talk with Zegler. Platt had to remind her how much was at stake with the movie and her career before asking her to post heedfully. The son of
That is crazy that it took you so long just to tell her that. It's a little too late, don't you think? You guys don't want to deal with it like before that? That's crazy. They should have done this like years in advance. It took them so long. I guess Disney really wanted to see how far she could take the movie. I don't know.
The Disney producer was criticized online for his father trying to reprimand Zegler, to which he responded, "Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office.
Yes,
Free speech
clearly
does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions.
True.
Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged.
Yes, but this should have been dealt with since like the beginning. Did no one at Disney see like the first couple interviews that she was doing? Where was this energy in the beginning? Disney should have taken precaution from the very beginning. It's a lesson learned. I feel like it's a lesson learned on Disney's behalf, especially for like hiring new actors and actresses. I think it'll be like worth the investment for them to give them PR training. You know what I mean?
Now, Rachel Zegler cannot necessarily be held responsible for the actions of other people. After all, her and her co-star are doing the exact same thing. They are just expressing support for opposite sides. But all of this could have been avoided if they just left politics out of a children's movie.
Yeah.
But Zegler was insistent on making her political opinion heard at any opportunity she could.
It's so bad. I get like wanting to have like your own political views, but tying it to like the movie that you should be promoting? Girl, what are you doing?
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks.
Girl.
Our reproductive rights. Come on.
She's so cringy.
Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
And what better time than immediately after the election of President Donald Trump. She posted on her Instagram story, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in." She doesn't have a daughter, by the way. Leaning
What? That's fucking weird. All right, with your imaginary daughter, why would you even put that in the post? That's actually a little misleading for some of us, you know?
Leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke fear this morning, and I am here with you. To cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. This sent the media into an all-out frenzy, particularly conservative media, who were shocked that Disney was allowing their star to publicly condemn half the country.
Hello, Disney, you're gonna have to redo your film again. Because this woman is a pig, and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
True. Why didn't Rachel Zegler receive the same treatment that Gina Carano had? It's actually quite unfair if you think about it, and looks a bit biased. Tisk Disney, tisk.
Finally crossed a line. Disney was officially fed up with her and decided to take action. First, I'm assuming, they made her apologize because she redacted her comments she made about the election. From there, Zegler reportedly began working with a social media guru paid for by Disney to vet.
Don't you think it's a little too late? I've said this at the beginning, dude. It's fucking too late, bro.
Any post before the film's March 21st debut. They essentially had someone monitoring her social media so she wasn't able to sabotage the film any further, but the damage had already been done. The film officially released in theaters worldwide on March 21st, 2025. There was a slight chance that all this negative publicity would actually draw more attention to the film, increase ticket sales, and lead to a successful debut. Unfortunately for Disney, the opposite happened. Fans knew this movie was going to suck way before it ever released, and no matter how many professional critics on Rotten Tomatoes are writing positive reviews, the fans have made their statement with a lack of support. And as a result, Snow White has suffered a disastrous opening weekend at the global box office, earning only $87.3 million worldwide, which sounds like a lot until you realize that it had a staggering $250 million production budget, which some reports suggest is actually closer to $300 million after reshoots and marketing costs.
With all of this, it really does show that not all publicity is good publicity. Reaching a negative in the box office, all because she couldn't shut up about politics. It's one thing to want to express your political views, but it's another tying that to a Disney movie. She really did a number on this, and I'm not sure if this will impact her from getting more roles in Hollywood. She does have talent, but she lacks professionalism and grace.
That means they had a whopping 70% loss, making it one of Disney's biggest box office bombs in recent history. This performance is nearly exactly the same as The Little Mermaid. It had the same budget and had a very similar opening weekend. However, The Little Mermaid was actually a pretty good remake with positive reviews.
I actually didn't get to watch
to give
this,
the movie
though.
a shot, which resulted in a $569
Oh, that's actually pretty impressive.
million worldwide box
Didn't they bring
office
this up? I
earnings.
saw this
But
earlier.
due to the overwhelming agreement from people who actually watched the movie that it sucks, and then people straight up boycotting, I don't think Snow White's gonna get a second wind. This is a bomb. And Rachel Zegler's response to the box office failure was nothing short of delusional.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces. And people still line up to see her.
Girl.
And I can only hope that despite my flaws And despite my cracks and my breaks,
she's so cringy. Dude, whatever the she's taking, I want in. The level of delusion that she has is so remarkable and impressive. I want in on it. Give it to me.
That at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
People who already thought Zegler was a narcissist have officially confirmed their feelings after seeing this statement. They suspected she was trying to make this film about her. They suspected that she did not care for the legacy of Disney and that all she wanted was the spotlight for herself. And honestly, this response makes it seem like those assumptions are now justified. But it's a confusing response because the film was a massive flop. Like, essentially she's saying, haha, my movies are so great, you just have to line up and you have to watch them. But that's not the case. People are actually not waiting in line for this film specifically because of her. And as easy as it is to continuously blame her for the failure of this film, it's only fair to admit that Rachel Zegler's performance was actually decent. She is a great singer, and she definitely performed well considering most of what makes the film actually bad was outside of her control. Like most Disney live-action remakes, Snow White just felt a bit bland and lacked the magic of the original. The CGI looked cheap, the colors are dull and boring, the evil queen didn't feel very evil at all. These remakes often struggle to capture the same charm, making them feel like a corporate cash grab. But
who are we kidding? It is. It is a corporate cash grab. Who are we kidding?
Since Disney will lose money on this film, perhaps they won't make this same mistake going forward. But the biggest...
I think it's a lesson learned. I hope they take note for future projects, you know, for future movies. We'll see, though.
Learning lesson for Disney here is that the internet outrage is not fake. When people say, hey, your main character is...
Her hair just... It's not giving anything, honestly. It doesn't look good on her. Oh, no. I mean, but then again, this is a 1930s hairstyle. Like, evidently so. You know what I mean?
insufferable and I will not spend my money to see this movie, they're not lying. When people say they genuinely want politics to remain out of a children's movie, they are not lying. And when people say it's better to just invent new stories instead of alter the classics, they are not lying. The people won, but the truth is, this film should have never been made. Walt Disney himself was extremely protective of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This was essentially his baby. Walt reportedly rejected multiple ideas for sequels, including a proposed short called Snow White Returns, and was adamant that the original story should not be altered or expanded, as he believed Snow White was a standalone masterpiece that should remain untouched.
Yet, they did. They changed it. Why? This is like a slap to his face, right? This is a slap to Walt Disney's face. Blatant disrespect towards Walt Disney and his legacy that he left, that he wanted untouched. And this was obviously a big cash grab, one that cost them so much, and it failed. He really is turning in his grave. Anyways, this was a very informative video. If you guys have watched the movie, what did you guys think? If not, are you ever planning to watch the movie? I have not watched the movie myself. Link to the original video will be down below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for the algorithm. Thank you so much for your support. Bye-bye!